Three Waves of Pentecostalism by Walter Fugit. Before we get into the waves of the Pentecostal movement, let's sort of like give a brief explanation of what Pentecostalism really is. Pentecostalism is a religious movement that gave rise to a number of churches in the United States in the 20th century. Pentecostalism was one of the fastest growing movements of any denomination in the world and in the United States. It is actually the biggest denomination in the United States. There's over 500 million people have become a part of this Pentecostal movement. Pentecostalism is a unique belief. It's a unique movement, and it is a belief that Christians should have an experience called the baptism of the Holy Ghost or the baptism of the Spirit that's found in the book of Acts, chapter 2. Pentecostalism is not a denomination, it is an Acts 2 experience. The three waves of Pentecostalism is classic Pentecostalism, charismatic renewal, and neo-charismatic. The first wave is the classic Pentecostal wave movement. This movement began at Azusa Street in April in 1906 and went on, I think, until about 1914 or 15. This was when 300 people got together and had a desire for an Acts 2 recovery, and oh, what a recovery they had. It was a holiness movement. They were very strict. They really believed in separating themselves from the world. The more they separated themselves, the closer they would get to God. This movement had no boundaries. It accepted everybody in the midst of a time of segregation between a lot of people, a lot of poor people, a lot of people that were uneducated, that were illiterate. This movement had no boundaries. Everybody was accepted in, just as God has no respect in person today. Third wave, or the second wave, excuse me, was the charismatic renewal. It started in probably the late 50s, early 60s. Uh, this was a denomination that sort of other denominations sort of took a hold of. They began to want that excitement. They wanted to embrace that enthusiasm the classic Pentecostal movement had. They didn't change their doctrines. These churches didn't. It began to be in the Roman Catholic Church, the Baptist Church, the Methodist Church, and all these other denominations, but they didn't change their belief or their doctrine. It just became an additive to what they had already believed. Um, this movement, it didn't embrace the holiness movement as the Pentecostal movement did or the classic Pentecostal movement did. This movement sort of took on wearing makeup, and dress codes were not really a big thing in their denomination, but they took on this enthusiasm and they really loved it. This was that second wave, that charismatic movement. The third wave I want to talk about today is the neo-charismatic wave or movement. This movement started in the 1980s and it is continuing through today. This movement sort of sought out for signs and wonders. The Bible talks about signs following them that believe. They're looking for miracles, great healings, and all of these things that's happening during this movement. Also, a lot of preachers and teachers and leaders have tried to predict the coming of the Lord, the rapture of it taking place. We've seen the rise and we've seen the fall of tele-evangelists. We can see that. We've heard that on the news. And also, this movement has sort of strayed away from the classic Pentecostalism movement in ways that we see there is, no separation from sin. Seems like in the world today, they had the holiness movement. in the classic Pentecostal movement. They sort of strayed away from that today. So it's sort of an old-fashioned kind of thing, and it's become something new. This neo-charismatic movement has, and one of the things about it, this movement has the ability to reach more people than it ever has through means of internet and through means of television and social media. Bible teaches us to go into all the world, and this movement certainly has been able to do that.